In Indiana, the height restrictions for telephone and electric lines in city streets and alleys are governed by the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Several sections of the NEC address these clearances. For city streets, NEC Section 225.6 pertains to the clearances above ground for overhead conductors. Specifically, secondary conductors operating at less than 750 volts must have a minimum clearance of 10 feet above the highest point of any pedestrian crossing or driveway. NEC Section 225.19 dictates clearances from buildings or other structures. Overhead conductors must maintain a minimum distance of 3 feet from any buildings or structures except for service drop conductors. For alleys, NEC Section 225.6 also applies to the clearances above ground for overhead conductors. Primary conductors, those operating at 750 volts or more, must have a minimum clearance of 12 feet above the highest point of any pedestrian crossing or driveway. Secondary conductors, again operating at less than 750 volts, require a minimum clearance of 10 feet above the highest point of any pedestrian crossing or driveway. NEC Section 225.34 outlines clearances from building openings. Overhead conductors must maintain a minimum distance of 3 feet from any building openings such as windows and doors. It is important to note that local ordinances may impose additional height restrictions beyond those specified in the NEC. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, or IURC, has jurisdiction over electric and telecommunication utilities in Indiana and may approve variances from the NEC requirements in certain cases. It is recommended to contact the IURC or the local utility for specific information and guidance regarding height restrictions in the area. The National Electrical Code is incorporated into Indiana law by the Indiana Electrical Administrative Board. The NEC is updated regularly, so it is crucial to refer to the latest edition for current requirements. These height restrictions are primarily for safety purposes, designed to prevent contact with overhead lines and to ensure proper clearances for emergency vehicles. Firstly, always ensure that the height clearances meet or exceed the NEC requirements and any local ordinances. Secondly, be aware of the voltage level of the conductors, as this affects the required clearance. Thirdly, consider the presence of building openings or other structures when planning or maintaining overhead lines. Fourthly, regularly inspect overhead lines to ensure that clearances are maintained and that no sagging or other issues have compromised the required heights. Fifthly, when working near overhead lines, always maintain a safe working distance and use appropriate safety equipment. Sixthly, be aware that the NEC is a minimum standard and that local utilities or other authorities may have more stringent requirements. Seventhly, always consult with qualified professionals when designing, installing, or maintaining overhead electrical systems. Eighthly, remember that safety is paramount when working with electricity, and adhering to height restrictions is a critical component of ensuring public safety. Ninthly, understand that the IURC can provide variances from the NEC, but these are typically granted only under specific circumstances and with appropriate justification. Tenthly, keep updated on the latest edition of the NEC to ensure compliance with the most current regulations. The clearances specified in the NEC are intended to provide a safe environment for both workers and the public. Maintaining these clearances prevents accidental contact with energized conductors, which can result in serious injury or death. The height restrictions also ensure that emergency vehicles, such as fire trucks and ambulances, can safely access areas without risk of contact with overhead lines. In addition to the specific height requirements, there are other considerations when working with overhead conductors. These include the sag of the conductors, which can vary depending on temperature and load. The sag must be accounted for when determining the overall clearance of the lines. The type of conductor used also affects the clearance requirements. Larger conductors may require greater clearances due to their increased weight and sag. The NEC provides tables and guidelines for determining the appropriate clearances based on conductor size and type. The location of the overhead lines is another important factor. Lines that run along roadways or near buildings must have greater clearances than lines that run through open areas. This is to protect pedestrians and vehicles from accidental contact. The NEC also addresses the clearance requirements for overhead lines that cross over railroads or other transportation corridors. These clearances are designed to prevent interference with trains or other vehicles. When working with overhead conductors, it is important to use appropriate safety equipment. This includes insulated gloves, hard hats, and safety glasses. Workers should also be trained in the proper procedures for working near energized lines. It is important to maintain a safe working distance from overhead lines. The distance will vary depending on the voltage of the lines. The NEC provides guidelines for determining the appropriate working distance. It is also important to be aware of the potential for arc flash. Arc flash is a dangerous electrical explosion that can occur when a conductor comes into contact with another object. Arc flash can cause serious burns and other injuries. To prevent arc flash, workers should wear appropriate personal protective equipment and follow safe work practices. Overhead conductors are a critical part of the electrical system. They provide a means of transmitting electricity from power plants to homes and businesses. It is important to maintain these lines properly to ensure that they operate safely and reliably. Regular inspections of overhead lines can help to identify potential problems such as sagging conductors, damaged insulators, and overgrown vegetation. Addressing these problems promptly can prevent outages and other issues. When working with overhead lines, it is important to follow all safety precautions. This will help to protect workers and the public from accidental contact with energized conductors. The NEC is a valuable resource for information on the safe installation and maintenance of overhead electrical systems. By following the guidelines in the NEC, it is possible to create a safe and reliable electrical system. Remember to always consult the latest edition of the NEC and any local ordinances that may apply. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with qualified professionals when designing, installing, or maintaining overhead electrical systems. The NEC is a comprehensive document that covers a wide range of electrical topics. It is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and safety practices. It is important to stay up to date on the latest edition of the NEC to ensure compliance with current regulations. The NEC is not a law, but it is widely adopted by states and municipalities as the basis for their electrical codes. In Indiana, the NEC is incorporated into state law by the Indiana Electrical Administrative Board. This means that the NEC is legally enforceable in Indiana. Violations of the NEC can result in fines or other penalties. The NEC is a valuable resource for anyone who works with electricity. It provides detailed information on the safe installation and maintenance of electrical systems. By following the guidelines in the NEC, it is possible to create a safe and reliable electrical system. The height restrictions for overhead conductors are just one small part of the NEC. However, they are an important part of ensuring public safety. By adhering to these restrictions, it is possible to prevent accidental contact with energized lines and to ensure that emergency vehicles can safely access areas. Always remember to prioritize safety when working with electricity. This means following all safety precautions, using appropriate safety equipment, and maintaining a safe working distance from energized lines. By working safely, it is possible to prevent accidents and injuries. The NEC is a valuable tool for promoting electrical safety. By following the guidelines in the NEC, it is possible to create a safer environment for workers and the public. The height restrictions for overhead conductors are an essential part of this effort. Maintaining these clearances is critical for preventing accidents and ensuring the safe operation of the electrical system.